Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the City Chatter Podcast. I'm John Bernstrom, Public Information Officer for the City of Grand Forks. And my guest in this episode, new City Council member, Mike Fridolfs. Mike, thank you for being here. How's it going?
Good to be back.
Let's pull that mic in a little bit.
There you go.
We got to eat it. Just heads up, it will move the mic that way. There we go. There we go. It's National Radio Day, so we're going to touch on that a little bit as we do radio.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. I count podcasting in on that one, so that could be kind of fun. So you've now been on the council a whopping, 6 weeks? How's it going? I mean, you've gone through budgets. You're building a turf and aquatic, by you, the council, building a turf and aquatic center. It's a lot to chew in the first few weeks.
Yeah, first day on the job, they go, here's this 500-page document, memorize it, here's your budget, right?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to learn those inner workings as you start like flipping pages and having questions, and everyone's got an idea where you can save money. And so that's why there's 7 of us on the panel, on the board, and we work together to try to come to some compromise where we can, fit it in a box is really what you're trying to do, and not put money on the taxpayer. So it's very interesting to learn that. And then we go through, each week is something, we've had some pretty big subjects come up, and then the Alaris Aquatic Center coming up, that's probably going to be one of our biggest. And talking with some of the folks last night, I'm like, this is going to be a legacy for us. And I think if we do this right, we're going to have something to remember us by. So,
yeah, let's dive into that one. Ultra Sports and Aquatics going south of the Alaris Center. There was some conversation at the meeting last night about it, of just, hey, can we get some background? How are we where we're at? And then, but also, is there a chance shovels in the ground next spring?
We're hoping, yeah, if we can come to, we get the money, we get, we can settle on what the design should look like. I think we can get there.
And then just a quick question. You talk about there's 7 of you on the council. You're asked to be an architect. You're asked to be an engineer. You're asked to be a financial whiz, right? I don't know if any of those are your background, but wrestling with some of that and maybe leaning on other council members for some of that information.
Absolutely. So Ken, he's been around the block a few times, and he's pretty financially savvy. And then Brandon too. So Brandon, his business background, he helps. I talk to him sometimes when I've got questions, and we all kind of lean on each other. Danny's been super helpful. Everyone has been. And so I think you definitely have to, you learn a lot. You're here, Swiss Army knife of multiple trades when you're doing that.
You say Swiss Army knife. I say Cliff Clavin from Cheers. I know a little bit about a lot of things. I'm an expert in none. Right. So that's how I describe myself. Also yesterday there was a growth fund meeting. So I am now sitting across the table here from the chair of the Grand Forks Growth Fund. Go into it just a little bit. You had 2 items on the agenda yesterday, some loans going out to some new businesses, or not new businesses, existing businesses for expansion. Talk first, was it Red River Potato?
Yep.
What were they looking at?
So they were looking at, I can't remember the exact amount, but what they want to do is, expand that business, and it looks like it's a good amount of staffing, good amount of production. They're tripling their production rate.
Their output, yeah.
So I think that's hugely beneficial, and they're super pumped about getting it going, and I think they've got a pretty good plan forward.
And then the other one was B Mobile. Mobile.
That's right.
Yes.
Yep. And so they want to grow their business. It looks like they've been partnering with Verizon to expand their business, and they're just going to continue to grow. And they're the same thing with them. They're the people who are managing the business are just super pumped and love Grand Forks, and they see a big opening here for them.
And really what, as a growth fund that you do is yes, we're giving loans, but really there needs to be a local match. They need to go to their own bank to get some match. They have to have some skin in the game. It's far from free money they're getting.
Right, exactly. It's not free. And but when you see a company that's investing in Grand Forks, it empowers everybody to respond back with a match and look at keeping those companies coming here, employing Grand Forks residents, and I saw the rates on some of these jobs. I think it was B Mobile was average of $38 per hour.
Whoa!
I was like,
yeah, that's not bad. We're going to get into your background a little bit. You have a bit of an IT background, so maybe we'll get into that. Also, yesterday discussion, and I think it ended the discussion for now, based on the vote on the council, just that Park District City Service I call it discussion. Councilmember Sandy wanted to study, is there any efficiencies out there? That was voted down. But in this 2-3 week time frame here, were you forced then to dig into a little bit? All right, what does the park district do?
Yeah, and so I see where Dana's coming from, right? You see someone mowing a lawn over here from the city, and and right next door it might be someone from the park district, and you're like, there's got to be some efficiency here. And I don't believe there needs to be a white paper and a trade study to go do that. Get a couple of those smart people in the room and be like, hey, I got this. And so I think I've worked with the park district folks before here because I use most of their facilities, including Lake Choice and everything. And this really pushed some people to the edge. I mean, they were really, I call it upset that this was even being considered, because I think they work so well together as a separate unit that I'm not sure the city wants to take that over, and I don't think it's and vice versa, right?
Well, along those lines, there's the Park District Works, which came to speak at yesterday's council. You have the youth baseball program, you have the youth hockey associate. Those are separate programs. They're not park board programs. Right. They're separate. So there's all these little fingers that go into various places.
Yeah, but you can see the passion. Everyone that came out. They're doing it for the kids, really.
Oh,
I mean, there you can see it. They were emotional about it. It's, we don't want to break this. I think doing anything further than what's already working, I don't think it's needed. I think there can be some efficiencies, just like with every business.
Right.
And so just look at it that way, and don't go do a big white paper trade study to go do it.
Yeah. Back to the ultra turf and aquatics. I've asked other council members this. You being a new council member, so when that vote was out there and it passed, everyone kind of had I want to see it this way. Did you come in on council as just like we're not there yet, right? They're still going through design stuff of just like this better be in there. Do you have any of that?
Absolutely. So there's some really smart people that are involved in the swim programs. There's some people that are involved in track. And I look at the design, and I'm not sure how we got there, because I wasn't on the board prior. And so I really want to learn how we got from A to B. So I think we talk to some of the people that are in swimming and say, hey, do we want this to be profitable? Heck yeah, we do. It's a business. We need to be able to hold national swim meets there. So what do we need in order to hold national swim meets? In order to do
that, sure.
I think it's like 800 people in the mezzanine, certain size swim pool. You need a cool down pool. I think that makes sense. Then you've got the track. Can we hold official track meets there? I don't know much about track. I'm not built like a runner.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you both.
So is it a 400 meter track you need, or is a 300 meter track acceptable? I don't know that part of it. And then you've got the pickleball part in there, which is really expensive, and I'm not sure if that's the best use of money. I'm not involved in the pickleball world either, right? So I know there's a big community of folks that do it, but I think there's just a little bit. I can't vote on something unless I know all the facts, right? And then that's the engineer in me, right? I need some details to follow through on that.
And that's an interesting microcosm of you as council members that you're now starting to deal with. You listed all those things, and those are all great. You put it all in there. That none of it's free. Things cost money. So then you start, all right, well, if we put this and we take this away, how do you, as a council member, you represent everyone in your ward.
Correct.
That doesn't mean that every decision you make, everyone in your ward agrees with you. I've heard that from people who are just like, well, I'm going to listen and do what you say. But what if two people come up with two different ideas? You can only pick one. As a council member, this is more philosophical. Right. How do you handle that?
Well, we got to run this like a business, right? And so you could have, is pickleball profitable? I do not know, right? But if we can start holding national meets, and you look at Danny last weekend with the BMX racing, I mean, you would have thought there was a huge concert at the Alaris. I mean, he hit it out of the park with that. So I think we got to take it as a business, take the personal part out of it. Everyone's, has their own little thing they want, but we can't do everything. It's like buying a car, and we get this list of stuff from the designers that say, you want this, it's another million. You want this, it's another couple million, right? So we have to decide what is really the necessities and what are the things that are going to generate us revenue. And I think those are the important things to look at.
In your first 6 weeks on the council, what phone calls, emails from constituents, do they all have a theme, or are they all over the map? I'm always curious on this with the different wards of, we can zero in on something, let's say Ward 2, right? It keeps getting calls about this, so let's focus on that. At Ward 5, do you have a theme yet?
The racetrack down Belmont.
Oh, sure.
So and so I got with the police department. They were quick to put up a trailer right there on Belmont. I mean, literally the day after I asked for it. Because there's construction on Washington and the road is blocked.
There's more traffic.
So there's more traffic. The people have got semis driving through their neighborhoods now, and there really wasn't. They didn't get to see the warning on Facebook or anything that showed that there was going to be construction. So between construction and turning Belmont into a racetrack, it's kind of the theme I get a lot from folks.
It's interesting. You're not my ward member. I'm right on the border, but I live off of Belmont, and yes, I can see. Improving Belmont was great south of 47th. Before that was such a crappy road, you had to go slow.
It's like speed bumps.
It was terrible. It was terrible, but it slowed you down.
Right.
What's a beautiful road, and I catch myself doing this, where you get a nice smooth ride. You're going. It's not so much not paying attention. All of a sudden, I'm going 35, 40 miles an hour because the road's nice and wide. Well, you hear from engineers and stuff like this. There's ways to construct natural slowing down features without just handing a ticket to everybody.
Right.
That's a tough one. I don't envy you at answering that because I don't know the answer.
Yeah, you just got to make people cognizant that they could get a ticket, right? So putting that trailer out there with the radar is probably a good start.
That's actually a good resource. I've seen that trailer with radar used before, and PD coming because you hear it's a racetrack, it's a racetrack, it's a racetrack, and PD comes back and they're like, no, it's not.
That's exactly what
No,
happens.
it's not. It's 35.
Yeah, because they see the trailer, and so now people go 32, and now you're like, well,
and you slow everyone down.
Yep.
Yep. We just got a question here. What's with the stupid mounds on Reeves Drive? That's not near. They're called speed bumps. Requested by the neighborhood.
Yeah.
They were requested by the neighborhood. They were put in a few years ago, and they were meant because of that very reason. It was like a 4-block stretch without a cross street. And guess what? By the end of 4 blocks, you're going pretty fast. Speed bumps.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Speed tables. Speed tables. They're different. I know.
Never heard that. Okay.
I know. Okay. So when you were running for Ward 5, we learned a little bit about you. You're a Grand Forks transplant. Talk about. You came here from California,
from San Diego.
and you chose to do that. Just joking. I like it here too. You work out at Grand Sky. Can you talk about your day job a little bit?
Yeah, I sure can. So I work for Northrop Grumman. I'm the site director for Grand Sky. We're doing some really cool stuff with remissioning of some old aircraft, the Global Hawk, and making it to test hypersonics. So I think we've got a pretty good mission, which is about 15, 20-year program in front of us. A lot of engineering, a lot of software, a lot of wrench turners, I'll call them, from Northland. We've got a lot of folks that are working on aircraft. But that's not all we do out there as well. That's probably our main program right now. We do a lot of software development for multiple programs. Let's see what else we do. We have a whole global supply chain arm, and then we also do mission engineering, which is a lot of modeling and simulation type work for certain customers.
Is it fair to say that you do work both at the federal government level, but also a private as well?
No, so everything is defense.
Every Department of Defense. Okay. So work brought you here.
It sure did. Yep.
Brought you here. I'm assuming a phone call happened at one point where it says, hey, we have an opportunity up in Grand Forks, North Dakota, a job promotion within the company. How did that conversation go at home, and did you know anything about Grand Forks?
Knew nothing. So, we lived in San Diego our whole lives. Got the phone call that said, hey, we'd like to offer you the position in Grand Forks. Hope you have a heavier jacket. That was the one thing the manager told me. And then proceeded the phone call to my wife and said, hey, we're going to go to Grand Forks. And she was like, thumbs up, let's go.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So she's been probably one of my largest supporters going through this. So it's much easier when you have someone on your side to do this with. And it was in 2019, and we sold our house in San Diego and moved here to Grand Forks.
So I love asking this to people who have moved here. So I'm not a Grand Forks native, but I have lived here for 27 years. There are certain people that say, well, you're not from here, right?
I got a lot of that.
Right. But I love Grand Forks. I think it's a great city. It's big enough, but it's not too big and all that stuff. Were there any pleasant, on the positive, any pleasant surprises for you and your family when you got here? You're like, hey, I didn't expect this.
There's quite a bit, I love, everyone says, I love the summers, and but
Of course,
but it's really just peaceful, right? I think we in the south end of town, we call it like an Airbnb, right? We have a very nice view out the window. There's eagles, there's deer. It's not something we had in San Diego. You can literally hear your neighbor flush their toilet in San Diego, right?
Sure.
And so, the lack of traffic, so when we start getting all these construction and you get a little bit of traffic, you get frustrated, but then you have to remember where you came
Step
from, right?
back, yeah.
It would take me 2 hours to get from south end of town to Grand Forks if it was in San Diego. So I think there's a lot of pleasantries here. I think it's a good place to raise kids. I think it's a good place to, hopefully my kids raise their kids here eventually, and we really do like it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. My wife and I always say this. She grew up in rural southern Minnesota. I grew up in rural northern Minnesota. We met at work up here, and we were just like, you know what? I think this is our home, right? Neither one of us is from here, and we were good with that. Yeah. All right. So as I mentioned, today is National Day of Radio. As we do a podcast here, National Day. Do you know your radio history?
I do not.
You do not. Oh no! Before we get into the radio history, so you're talking your work at Northrop Grumman.
Yeah.
We talked yesterday. My brain went to he has an aviation background, and you don't. What was your background to get into that?
So I was an IT geek. So forever since I was a little kid, I always built computers, worked on computers. Went to school for computers. Everything I did was to technology based. And then went to University of San Diego, continued that down the road, and then finally got picked up by Northrop Grumman back in 2003. And I was in the IT department working with them. And one day, one of the leaders there was like, hey, you want to come build the ground system for the Global Hawk? And I'm like, sure, I don't know what that means, right?
All those are big words.
Yeah. And eventually, just through a lot of, I've had some great leaders in my life, and some people might listen to this podcast may know George Guerra. He was one of the original starters of Grand Sky for Northrop Grumman, but he was from San Diego site as well. But he was a really good leader, and so he helped mentor me and guide me through a lot of the challenges that I had in my walk to get to where I am now. And so a lot of things I went through, I was an IPT lead, which is an integrated product team lead, all the way through working in a classified program for a while, and then came out and worked at Northrop Grumman for what was called the Fire Scout program, which is an unmanned helicopter. I was their SMT, so supplier management team for Bell. And then finally got the offer to come up here. And so it changed a lot, right? They don't let me touch anything anymore because
sure, that's right. You're a liability now.
Yeah, I got young kids that know stuff way better than me.
Yeah.
But it was a really interesting path, and now my son, with a degree in finance from Boise State, interned as well, and now he's working with the IT department at Northrop Grumman as well. So it's really funny. He's almost following my same path without me even doing the guidance. So.
That's funny. And we talked about that yesterday, and I just thought that was interesting. I think it tells a story of no matter where you work or you find your career, it doesn't necessarily mean you had to go to school for that. Or you kind of did, but life kind of wound you through there.
Oh, yeah.
I just made the assumption that you were a pilot at some point in
I'm
your
one
life.
of the few that doesn't have a pilot's license. I'm not former military, but I feel like I am because I've worked with so many great leaders from the military. Yeah, it's been a cool ride, man. I'll tell you.
No, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Okay, back to it. National Day of Radio. Right. We're doing a podcast here. Radio kind of has it goes back to kind of obviously. The all the inventions and the trade, of moving signal and stuff used during World War I, kind of one-to-one communications. You get the telegraph and all that stuff. But it was in 1919, the first American radio station. Do you know what city?
Ohio.
Well, that's a state.
Oh, Cleveland. Sorry, I meant Cleveland. Sorry, Cleveland, Ohio.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. KDKA. I think it still exists.
Really?
Right? So then a lot of the radio first happened in Pittsburgh. Yeah. So I'm a sports nerd. The first sporting event broadcast on radio was a boxing match in 1921. The first the first team sporting event was a baseball game, Pirates versus Phillies, in 1921. And then they did the World Series that year, which was the New York Giants and New York Yankees.
That's pretty cool. What was the first football game?
First football game was a University of Pittsburgh versus West Virginia college football game.
Nice.
Right, yeah. So all those firsts
Look at you
happened in
go.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Oh, Wikipedia is amazing. Wikipedia is a good thing. Yeah, so this was all on the internet, so if it's wrong, I'm sorry. 1926, the radio is known for jingles, right? Commercial jingles. The first commercial jingle, do you know what the product was? Let's say it's a breakfast product, specifically cereal.
Mikey likes it.
Yeah. Wheaties had the
That's a nice
first
cereal.
in 1926 had the first I learned that one in our vehicles, AM FM radios in all of our cars. They're having conversations about AM radio. I have my thoughts about that because it's the emergency broadcast system, all that stuff. But besides that, AM FM radios became standard in cars in what year? I was surprised by this. I think it's the FM part that makes it different.
1950.
Right. See, my head would have gone to something like that.
Yeah.
Car production going strong, all that stuff. No, it wasn't until 1971 that it was. So, in my understanding, then, all the cars from the 50s and everything, it sounds like radios maybe a request.
You sat in silence? What did you do?
Well, it was that, or I wonder if it was only AM.
Probably.
And FM didn't become a thing. This was, I thought, kind of interesting. Just the technology behind radio. So we're speaking here. It goes out, down these wires and out to a speaker and then out into the stratosphere. It goes at 700 miles an hour. 700 miles an hour. So based on that speed, a voice on radio can be heard 13,000 miles away, quicker than the sound that can travel across a room.
It's pretty cool.
Right?
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Right? Okay, so I've got some tech nerd in me too, and I'm just
the engineering part in me loves that stuff.
I'm like that. That's pretty cool. So yes, today is the National Day of Radio. We learned something today.
There we go. We're celebrating.
Mike, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us.
I got a gift for you too.
We got gifts.
I got a cool gift for you.
I like stuff. I already work for the city, so he's not giving me a job.
No, this is not. So
I know what those are.
A Grand Sky coin. So.
Oh, great. That's right.
Yeah,
Thank you
coin,
very
there you
much. I love challenge coins. I love you. The mayor likes them too. In fact, he's just like, I need more.
I think I've already given it one.
All right, Mike. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's
Mike
awesome.
Fridolfs, Ward 5 City Council member. Your first time on the podcast as a council member, and this won't be the last. We'll go through it. We'll go through it.
Look forward to it.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. You can listen to this podcast or any of our past podcasts by going to grandforksgov.com/podcast. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for listening. And again, any questions, you just reach out to us at the city. Call 311, send emails, go to our Facebook. We love all that stuff, and we'll get back to you the best I can. I may not have the answer, but I know who does. Have a good night, everybody.